Hello, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. Uh, Welcome to yet another important discussion that we want to focus on today. Our focus of today is the media. We want to look at the media at two levels. One, as a social institution, but secondly, as an instrument in the governance of society. As you recall, I mentioned at the beginning of this course that media is one of the emerging social institutions. And as we know, it is among the institutions that also include the family, the state, religion, education, and the economy. In this discussion, we will look at what media is. We shall also look at the types of media. We will look at the function of media. Then we'll have a discussion on what we call press freedom, as well as media censorship. What exactly is a media? The word media is derived from a Latin word meaning medius. Medius means middle. Media therefore refers to a means of communication that transfers information from the source to the public target. And as a social institution, media refers to a much broader thing, and in this regard, it refers to the organization and dissemination of information, concepts, and ideas to a larger audience, in this case, the entire society. Of course, we also have another term we call mass media, and mass media refers to the technologies used as channels to communicate information from a source to a larger number of people. Of course, like we noted earlier, there are several types of media. I want us to take some time and go through each of them briefly. One of the types of media is called print media. We have broadcast stroke electronic media. We have outdoor media. We have transit media. And we also have digital media. Let us have a look at each of them and also see the kind of examples that exist in each case. When we talk of print media, we simply refer to the printed form of information and the news. The most common form of print media is the newspapers. Of course, we have other forms of print media, which include periodicals, newsletters, and magazines. Of course, these ones normally serve a specific audience, or what we call a specific area of interest. We have brochures, we have leaflets, and we also have pamphlets. Another form of print media are the journals, books, novels, as well as the comics. Then another type of print media, we call them broadcast or electronic media. This simply refers to the distribution of audio and video content. In other words, when we talk of broadcast or electronic media, we refer to that media that distributes audio and video content to an audience that is dispersed. The audience is not at one particular point. Broadcast media appeals to both the auditory and visual sense. That is, in broadcast media, we can see as well as hear the information that is being relayed. They include television, radio, traditional telephone. For instance, if you are talking to somebody on telephone, films, movies, and other motion pictures, video games, as well as audio recording and production. The other important type of media, we call it outdoor media. These are prominent in brand promotion, and they are largely seen in buildings, in the streets, in electrical poles, in the roadside. Sometimes some of them are attached in the vehicles, among others. Some of these include the billboards or bulletins, inflatable billboards. These ones are those that are hanged but again can be removed. Mobile billboards. These ones are those that are normally tied or mounted on vehicles, on large trucks. We have banners, we have posters, we have signs and placards, and also brochure distribution. They are all form part of outdoor media. In other words, they are communicated outside the buildings, as we noted, as well as streets, electrical posts, and others. Then we have what we call transit media. This simply refers to media that transmit information to audience who are on transit. And most of the audience transit are basically those who are using automobiles, planes, and other means of transport. You quite often find them in our buses, in the trains, in taxis, and even in some cases temporary, or what we call the transit shelters. All those forms of media, they fall under what we call the transit media. Then, of course, we have what we call the digital media. This is the most recent form of media which has taken the media industry by storm. It is largely based on the internet, or we call it internet-driven media platforms. They include the following: the websites, the emails, the social media or social networking sites, which again, as you know, come in a number of forms. We have, for instance, WhatsApp, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, among others. There are quite many. Then you have what we call webcast or podcast. We have blogging or vlogging. We have internet protocol television. We have e-forums and e-books. We also have e-commerce and m-commerce. We have digital videos. We have computer animations. And we also have the digital games. Of course, I want us to look at the purpose that media serves in society. Media serves several purposes in society, or what we call several functions in society. The most prominent that we all know is entertainment, right? Media provides a pleasurable passive entertainment to nearly everyone in the world. And we often spend our free time, or what we call leisure time, to listen to music, to watch movies, to communicate with our friends through social media, and in doing so, it is helping us to relieve boredom. Media is also help us to recreate and also to spend our leisure in a more lively manner, or in a more enjoyable manner. We have several medium that have been useful in doing so. These include newspaper and magazines. When we read newspaper and magazines, we get a lot of fulfillment. We listen to radio, we listen to music, we listen to radio talk shows. We watch television, several programs, and we also use online medium. For instance, the social media sites to communicate, to chat, to exchange videos, among other things. We watch films. Then we also have the serials or the series that are quite common these days. Then we have also those that border on comics. We all need to be entertained. And therefore, when you look at it, media is a significant source of entertainment to all of us. And several several segments of the population have specific desires to be entertained by specific entertainment genre, and therefore we are all likely to find what we find suitable in the media to entertain us. Of course, the other function of media is information, right? The media shares information or sends information from one source to another source, and it is through media that we get to know about what is happening in various parts of the world and within our society, as well as within our households. And therefore, media becomes an important source of information. The extent to which that information is important depends on perhaps the position the media has taken. We know, for instance, that some media stands for certain things, very objective, some are very subjective, some provide the primary source of information, others relay what has been relayed by other media houses in an effort to make it add some flavor and therefore to make it more pleasurable, but all the same, it's a source of information. And therefore, we rely on media to know what is happening. And that's why we have newscast times, news time in radio, in TVs, and we also have news updates. We also read newspapers, we read magazines to know what is happening around us and what is happening in society. And therefore, media is an important source of information, and it will continue to be so. The other important function of media is persuasion. Persuasion simply means being influenced to do something. Media is an important influencer in society. For instance, the editorial, the articles, the commentaries, and others they make are meant to persuade us, are meant to convince us to take certain positions in life, right? Even advertisements that come in the media, they are designed to ensure that we take a particular position. They are meant to influence us to purchase a particular product. They are meant to influence us either to view a particular product or a particular piece of information in a negative or in a positive way, depending on the desire, the intended goal of that particular piece of information or the source of that particular piece of information. If the desire is to persuade us that's a good thing, then they will make it look like a good thing and therefore eliminate its positive side. However, if the desire is to make it look negative, again, they will do the same. So the entire goal here is to persuade us to take a particular position. And this position normally is one that favors the position that was intended by the source. The other function of the media is surveillance. To survey simply means to observe, to critically examine what is happening in society. Therefore, it is the work of the media to ensure that it critically examines what happens in society and in turn informs the public about what is happening in society. Sometimes this surveillance, we can be warned of imminent danger, of imminent threat, of emerging practices that the media considers dangerous to society, or surveillance might also mean that certain habits that used to be good are no longer being practiced, and therefore it is designed to remind us to embrace certain practices that are good. For instance, many times media would warn us or would survey society, and once it discovers that there are certain parts that are not good, then it comes up, it packages information in a way that it discourages us, so that practices such as drug abuse, human traffic, crimes, among others, are highly discouraged by the media. And in doing so, the media is playing its role of surveillance. We also know that even in government, media is normally the one that highlights malpractices in government, corruption in government, high level of crime in government. And we have seen this through feature stories, through documentaries, through investigative journalism. And a lot of rot in government, a lot of rot in society is reported to us. This one they do in their effort to fulfill their surveillance function in society. Of course, the media also helps in the interpretation. As ordinary human beings, we may take things at face value and in the process fail to understand the deeper meaning of what exists. And therefore, it is the work of the media to dig deeply into issues, interpret them, and look for facts that makes certain interpretations look or become real. And therefore, it is the work of the media not only only to report normal issues, but also to interpret events by looking at what exists today and whether it has any relationship with what had existed before, or whether it has any relationship with what is likely to exist in the future. For instance, if there are a lot of political utterances, negative political utterances, media might consciously look at that, critically examine that, and warn us that these utterances may inflame public emotion and prepare society or provide fodder for election violence. In that case, therefore, media would interpret human action, human utterances, and in the process advise or inform us either to avoid it because it's not good for us or to embrace it because it is good for us. And this one, media does its interpretation through careful analysis of news, commentaries, editorials, and even columns. Where possible, it even hires experts outside the media to help it shape certain ideas in a way that make them more understood or better understood by ordinary citizens. The other important function of the media is that the media provides linkage. It is through the media that we connect with friends, with relatives, and other people. Traditionally, we have used the telephone to connect with friends. We have used radio, for instance, to send messages of goodwill, greetings, and birthday messages, and also to say pole to our friends. In doing all this, the media is linking us with other people. The media also ensures that it brings us together. It brings us together. Different groups are brought together through music, through entertainment, and that common identification of similar programs also helps in linking like-minded individuals because of the desire for common hobbies. For instance, there are people who may not physically know each other, but all of them end up enjoying a particular movie. In that case, media is also connecting us. Another important function of media is socialization. Media teaches us what is good, what is bad, teaches us what to embrace or which cultural practices are acceptable and those that are bad. And therefore, media helps in preparing us to be responsible members of society. This does not, however, rule out the fact that there are certain cases in which the media has been the biggest source of cultural erosion. But again, a conscious media with proper structures, a good editorial team, and also with appropriate policies in government that helps in shaping media activities, the negative aspects of the media are far much less than what the positive aspects are, and therefore this still does not rule out the media as an important agent of socialization in society. There's a concept that I want us also to look at, what we call press freedom. It is stated that a media house or a media industry or a media as a social institution must be free. It should not be controlled by the state, because all those functions that we have mentioned may not be fulfilled if the media is encapsulated by the state. And therefore, we need a media that is free. The most important question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is it that constitutes or that makes a particular media free? Or what is it that means or that entails freedom of the press, or what we call press freedom? One, it must have on independent editorial boards. That is an important fact. Media houses must have their own independent editorial boards. The decisions they make in terms of what constitutes news should not be under the influence of the state agencies. It should be under the influence of their own editorial policies. So editorial board is a must if we are to achieve media freedom. The other one is we also need a free press that also informs the public and holds leaders accountable. So you're also likely to see that a particular media house or media industry is free if it is able to pinpoint what is wrong in our leadership, to pinpoint what is wrong with the particular decisions of government, and to inform the public about what is important for them or what ought to be done. The other thing is that a press freedom must also be characterized by factual reporting based on credible sources and information, right? The public deserves to get the truth and honest reporting, and therefore media houses must endeavor to ensure that the information they feed the public with is factual and is obtained from credible sources. However, media is allowed to also use its own means to get information, especially those that the political class might not wish the public to know. That one is also important. Media must also have its own professionalization and must also have a unit within which the public can make complaints, especially on issues that the public considers inappropriate, right? And therefore, we have Association of Journalists in Kenya, we have the Media Council of Kenya, and we also have, where possible, we can also take media cases to court, and that is why individuals who feel adversely mentioned by the media or the information reported about them is not correct have the liberty to seek apology from the media, but that particular media house. But if the media house refuses to apologize, the individual is allowed by law to press for libel charges against the individual journalist or against the particular media house. All these are legal provisions that are designed to make the media free, but also to protect private citizens from adverse media mentioning. The media freedom is also characterized by access of journalists to public meetings and public documents. We cannot have situations in which governments want to hold certain things in secret. If you look at it today, Kenya is awaiting for an important decision to be made by the Judicial Service Commission. The interviews are going on for the next position of the next Chief Justice. And you can see that media have been given access to cover what is happening, so that the decision the JSC make eventually might also confirm that indeed the public was in the know about what is going on. We have also seen cases where parliamentary proceedings are open to public. We have seen cases where interviews for important office holders are open to the public. This is part of media freedom. Now, it's also important, even as we talk of media freedom, to bear in mind that not all countries permit media freedom. And there are cases where the media is heavily censored. When we talk of censorship, media censorship, we simply refer to the imposition of certain restrictions on the media. That is, the media is not permitted to operate in a free atmosphere. They are controlled by the state. Those who argue that the media needs to be controlled argue that controlling the media will help in upholding public morals and also in enabling society not to be exposed to information that is dangerous to their morals, to their health, and to their security. Therefore, the process, some countries or some states insist on media censorship. However, in many cases, those who oppose media censorship perceive it more as a move by states, and for that matter, dictatorial states, to curtail freedoms of speech, information, among others, and also to ensure that only information that is favorable to those in authority reaches the public. Dictatorships all over the world have ensured that they control or they censor the media, and in doing so, they insist that censoring the media is part of maintaining law and order. However, their real motive in doing so is not necessarily to maintain law and order, but to keep the public in the dark about important information. Because such states feel that it is easier to rule a citizenry that is totally ignorant of the most critical issues affecting them. And therefore, they would use all possible means, including imprisonments, arrests, executions, and even forcing media personalities or journalists into exile. All these they do for purposes of ensuring that only one side of the story is given, and that is the story that favors them. They don't want any criticism or any information that appears to be educating the public about the wrongdoing in government. I think at that stage, I wish to stop there. Listen carefully to the lecture, take notes where possible, and raise questions or issues that you want further clarification so that we can address them as we move forward. Thank you so much.